Hello and welcome to Uzreport World News, and my name is Bahram Gaffarov. Uzbekistan is expected to be granted the GSP Plus status. This was followed by the meeting between the Uzbek Deputy PM and head of the European Union delegation to the Republic of Uzbekistan, Charlotte Adrian. Uzbekistan currently uses the Basic General System of Preferences, which allows the country to export 3,000 goods to the EU without customs duties and 3,200 items at reduced rates. The country will be able to import more than 6,200 goods without duties if it receives unilateral tariff preferences under the General System of Preferences Plus. This opens up new opportunities for entrepreneurs and investors in Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan's overall financial market makes up only 0.5% of the country's GDP, largely because of the dominant share of the state in local economy, said the head of the Capital Market Development Agency, Atabek Nazirov, during a meeting held in Tashkent. The event focused on measures aimed at improving financial literacy among youth.
Who of you owns a stock? Are there any shareholders among you? This is our disadvantage. Uzbekistan is a developing country and there is so much to be done. It's important to engage such concepts as finance, financing and financial market. The overall financial market of Uzbekistan is only 0.5% of the country's GDP, while in America it's almost 100%. Financial market participants are trying to attract capital, but the role of the state dominates in our economy. Its participation must be reduced. Sadly, capital and financial market development were not previously given due attention. If the population, especially young people, will not be acquiring financial literacy, they will not be able to realize their potential with available resources. Implementing change in human outlook and managing the available means are some of the most challenging tasks ever conceived. President instructed us to improve the financial literacy of young people, especially in rural areas. Besides, the President instructed to conduct meetings with economists and promote the finance sector.
In a bid to eliminate statelessness, Uzbekistan is planning to give the Uzbek citizenship to another 20,000 people who have been permanently residing in it for 15 years. This is a new procedure introduced by the Uzbek authority. Last year, 50,000 people received Uzbek passports in the Republic. Uzbekistan's capital, Tashkent, held a third Tashkent International Marathon on Sunday. At the mass sporting event, over 2,000 participants initially performed a semi-marathon, a 3-kilometer run, as well as Marathon Ekiden. The runners included professional and amateur athletes, volunteers, and the elderly and young children.
The participants who made the first 3-kilometer race were welcomed in the front of the finish line and awarded with medals.
I have good impressions from the event. It has started with a distinctive spirit. I was planning to run 42 kilometers, but because of my trauma I got 3 months ago, I stopped practicing. I ran the initial 3 kilometers only, but it was hard anyway. A special preparation is needed. I think this kind of event is important for culture, health and sport. For instance, I came from Kazakhstan. We're going to check our strength in various types of running.
One after another, the participants of the 21-kilometer semi-marathon, 42-kilometer marathon reached the finish line and awarded special medals. The runners at the Ekiden Marathon, consisting of 6 people from the team, carried out the relay race.
Uzbekistan is to introduce the Smart Mahalla by June 1, 2021, the platform that will be allowing users remotely contact the prevention inspectors, track the consideration proceedings and prevent offences and crimes in each mahalla and family. The system will be first operating in Tashkent and Samarkand regions and then will spread across the country.
This is stipulated by the presidential decree on measures to raise the activities of the internal affairs bodies to a qualitatively new level in the field of ensuring public security and combating crime. According to the document, now the problems with the prevention of offences and the fight against crime in the context of each mahalla, family and individual will be resolved directly on the ground. For this, mahalla law enforcement posts will gradually appear on the basis of the strong points of the internal affairs bodies. This information system will be launched in the other regions of the Republic by the end of 2021.
A suspect was charged with murder on Sunday for fatally stabbing a woman in a Vancouver suburb library earlier this weekend. That's according to Canadian police, who said the 28-year-old suspect, Yannick Bandaogo, was charged with second-degree murder. The female victim was in her late 20s, but was not named in a police statement. 6 others were wounded in the early afternoon attack on Saturday. They've all been taken to the hospital and do not have life-threatening injuries. Video from the scene outside the library appeared to show a man injuring himself with a knife before being pounced on by police. Police tweeted, "He has undergone surgery for self-inflicted wounds and is currently in police custody." The suspect's motive is still under investigation, along with his background and relationship to the victims, if any.
We've seen that in our own country.
The top U.S. infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, warned on Sunday that coronavirus cases are again creeping higher and that it was still too soon to lift restrictions on public gatherings.
What we're likely seeing is because of things like spring break and pulling back on the mitigation methods that you've seen now. Several states have done that. I believe it's premature, Margaret, because when I've said many times to you that when you're coming down from a big peak and you reach a point and start to plateau, once you stay at that plateau, you're really in danger of a surge coming up. And unfortunately, that's what we're starting to see. We got stuck at around 50,000 new cases per day, went up to 60,000 the other day, and that's really a risk.
His warnings on the CBS program Face the Nation came as some states, such as Arizona this week, have dropped mask mandates and begun allowing businesses to open their doors without restrictions. And as spring break rages on in Miami, Florida, and other vacation hotspots like Santa Monica, California. The rise in infections comes amid efforts by the Biden administration to deliver shots into the arms of Americans more quickly. President Biden this week doubled his administration's target for vaccinations, aiming to get 200 million doses out within his first 100 days in office. Former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb says ramping up vaccinations will play a key role in controlling a potential fourth wave.
What we're seeing around the nation right now, which is worrisome, are outbreaks in certain states. Michigan, the Metro Detroit area, Boston, around Massachusetts, the tri-state region, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, are experiencing an upsurge of infection. And I think what we need to do is try to continue to vaccinate, surge vaccine into those parts of the country. So the incremental vaccine that's coming onto the market, I think the Biden administration can allocate it to parts of the country that look hot right now. But if we could just get 2 or 3 more weeks of around 3 million vaccines a day, that's going to be a pretty big backstop against a true fourth surge.
Since the pandemic began, there have been nearly 550,000 coronavirus-related deaths reported in the U.S.
Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison reshuffled his cabinet on Monday, following a series of allegations about the mistreatment of female lawmakers and staff. This includes removing the country's top law officer, Christian Porter, as Attorney General. Porter has been the subject of a historical rape allegation which he strongly denies. In March, the police said there was insufficient evidence to investigate the alleged rape, as the accuser was no longer alive. He will now have a record 7 female lawmakers in his cabinet. Morrison has sought to regain voter support after facing an outpouring of public anger over his response to the allegations.
I think with a fresh lens, and a fresh lens in particular to achieving the outcomes, the results that we all want for Australian women right across the country.
He also moved another lawmaker, Defence Minister Linda Reynolds, who was criticised for her handling of an allegation of rape by a member of her staff 2 years ago. Earlier this month, tens of thousands of women protested outside Parliament and around Australia, calling for gender equality and justice for victims of sexual assault. Morrison's government trails opposition Labor on a two-party preferred basis by 52-48.
Yeah, well, if it wasn't for bad luck, I'll probably have none at all. I don't know whether it's just someone tested me or what, but it is what it is, I guess. You get through it.
Australian cattle farmer Robert Costigan thought the worst was behind him when he saved 2 family properties from raging bushfires in 2019. But in a cruel twist of fate, this year they floated away. His and his father-in-law's homes were swept off their foundations earlier this month when heavy rains caused rivers to reach their highest levels in half a century, submerging bridges and buildings. Walking through and around the family home, the insurance company has declared the property a write-off, with everything needing to be rebuilt. Costigan, his wife Bianca, father-in-law Brian and children Eva and Dre are now staying with neighbours. Their cattle and much-loved family pets were spared.
Just disbelief. Heartbreaking to drive across the causeway and see house gone. It's just heartbreaking, I guess.
I love a sunburnt country, a land of sweeping plains, of ragged mountain ranges, of droughts and flooding rains, reads the beloved Our Country by Australian poet Dorothea McKellar. And for the Papenbarra community on the mid-north coast hinterland, it couldn't be more true. After years of drought devastated crops and livestock across New South Wales, farmers battled through the country's worst bushfires in a generation in the summer of 2019 to 2020, only to face flooding amid a La Niña wet weather event this year. The same river system Costigan pumped water from to save his house from the bushfires has returned to destroy it with flood. But he's not giving up.
We'll rebuild. I've worked too hard to just walk away from it. Like, we've got a brilliant community, brilliant friends. Like, the help that everyone's offered us is amazing.
In Hong Kong's busy waterways, Reverend Stephen Miller is a beacon of light.
Sometimes they're very happy to see you.
Coronavirus restrictions have made it difficult for those that crew the world's container ships to disembark and for replacements to take over. So Miller does supply runs for sailors unable to leave their ships, delivering SIM cards and snacks via ropes thrown from the deck. He says he does this out of fear for their mental health.
You can just imagine it for yourself. You've been planning to go home, you've been planning to do things to your family, or maybe see a young child for the first time in many, many months, and that then is taken away from you.
The International Chamber of Shipping estimates about 100,000 seafarers still currently stranded worldwide. Ritesh Mehra was one person who felt the tides turn quickly. He went from being captain of a gas tanker last July to feeling like its prisoner. When he enlisted, he expected to only be gone 4 months. But he found himself still stuck aboard the same ship 8 months later.
So the thought of not being able to go back home in time and the thought of being chained to this particular place and in a way you can also say jailed is getting onto crew now.
Mehra was forced to miss holidays and a funeral away from his family in New Delhi, all while having to manage a nervous crew, struggling with mounting fatigue and social isolation. Mehra was finally able to leave the ship in March. Now he's preparing for quarantine before being reunited with his family. He says he used to think of having his son join him as an officer on the same ship, a dream he now thinks is better left at sea.
North Korea said on Monday that the UN Security Council's Sanctions Committee was showing a double standard after it slammed Pyongyang's recent weapons test as a breach of UN sanctions. North Korea launched a new type of tactical short-range ballistic missile last week. At the committee meeting on Friday, the United States called for more sanctions on Pyongyang. On Monday, top North Korean official Jo Chol-soo said in state media that the UN meeting was, quote, designed to negate the right of our state to self-defense. He also said that it does not make any sense that only our righteous self-defensive measure should be singled out for denunciation when many other countries across the globe are firing all kinds of projectiles for the purpose of increasing their military strength. Jo warned North Korea would devise a countermeasure. It comes after Pyongyang said over the weekend that the U.S.'s criticism of its missile test was a wrong first step and revealed, quote, deep-seated hostility.
Authorities in India's western state of Maharashtra imposed night curfews on Sunday to tackle a record surge in COVID-19 cases. That's after financial hub Mumbai reported 6,123 new cases, the highest single-day spike since March last year. India's health ministry said on Sunday that the country recorded 62,714 coronavirus cases in the last 24 hours, the highest single-day tally since mid-October. And with 312 deaths, single-day mortality figures were also at their highest since Christmas. Several government hospitals in Mumbai reported they were running out of critical care beds. It's led to the Mayor of Mumbai to allow only essential services to open at night, meaning that hotels, pubs and shopping malls must observe the night curfew rules. Residential areas with 5 or more reported COVID-19 cases in the city have also been ordered to be sealed off. The surge in cases across India comes during a vital election season, as West Bengal and Assam started voting for state assemblies on Saturday. The elections will indicate how support for Prime Minister Narendra Modi is holding up after a year of the pandemic and months of mass protests over farm laws. Gibraltar took a major step towards returning to normal on Sunday, with people now able to wander around downtown without wearing a mask, as the government said that most of the adult population has been vaccinated. As the number of new infections plummeted in the 33,000-strong population, authorities also lifted a nighttime curfew from Thursday evening, allowing bars and restaurants to stay open until 2 a.m. Gibraltar's Minister for Civil Contingencies said in a statement that there are no active cases in its hospital or in its elderly care homes. However, masks will still remain compulsory on public transport and in shops. According to the website Our World in Data, the British territory has one of the highest levels of vaccine doses being administered per 100 people. It was severely hit last year. With 94 fatalities, it had the world's highest death toll relative to its population, according to data tracking site Worldometer.
So far, these were the latest news for today. Goodbye. Take care.